So in this video, I'm just going to talk through section 13.3, pages 148 and 149. So if you open your book and follow along with me, that would probably be the easiest. Pasa pan is a very frequent word in the New Testament. So it's a little bit unusual, but it's important to know it well because you'll run into it all the time. When I translate it, when I find it in the singular, I think of it as meaning every or some version of each, although there's another word that means each as well. And when I see it in the plural, I think of it as all. You can also translate it as whole. In order to remember the word, so for example, when I think of the word pas, immediately I think of pasapan. I think I learned it in vocabulary as pasapan. And it's really important to know um, all three versions, all three forms of the adjective pronoun. It kind of functions as both because the feminine form is completely different from the masculine and the neuter. You also need to know that in the masculine and neuter, the stem is pant. So Duff suggests that you learn the genitive pantos as we normally do. But as long as you remember that the masculine neuter stem is pant, you'll be good. Pasa is the stem for the feminine, so it declines like a first declension noun. So let's just look at this. In the masculine then, follows the third declension. It's pas, panta, pantos, panti, pantes, pantas, panton, pasin. And then in the neuter, it also follows the third declension. So it's the same as the masculine, except for the nominative and accusative, which in the singular is pan, and in the plural is panta. Otherwise, it's the same as the masculine. The feminine, as I mentioned, follows the first declension pattern. So we have pasa, pasan, pases, pase, pasai, pasas, pason, pasais. So in one sense, it's regular because it does follow those patterns, but in another sense, it's very different because the feminine follows a pattern that's different from the masculine and the neuter. If you look on the top of page 145, there's various ways that it's used. We see there in the first two examples, panta and pantes, it can be used all by itself. We've seen other adjectives do this. Pasapan does it very frequently. So panta means all things, and pantes means all people or everyone, some version of that. Another way it can be used is with a noun without the article. So in that case, it functions just like an adjective. Pandendron would be every good tree. If it was in the plural, it would be uh, all trees, is how we would translate it. It can also be used as a predicate with the noun. Now, this is what we saw with hutos, that hutos can be used with a noun, but the article is still there as well. Pasapan works exactly the same way. So we have pantes hoi arquieres, and we translate it all the chief priests. And that works in English sometimes too. However, in the singular, it wouldn't work. So you could have the same three words, but in the singular, and it would be every priest rather than having an article. The article would be there in the Greek, but you wouldn't translate it into the English. It can also occur with an article and a participle, pas ho pisteuon. So here we're going to translate the ho pisteuon as a relative clause, even though it's not a relative clause in the English or in the Greek. So everyone who believes, pas ho pisteuon. The parsing here, the first 6 ones in practice 13.3, it's really just a matter of recognizing the endings or looking at the chart on page 148. So pantes is the masculine nominative plural. Pasais is the feminine dative plural. Pantos is the masculine genitive singular or the neuter genitive singular. Pasan is the feminine accusative singular. Pan is the neuter nominative and accusative singular, and panti is the dative singular for both masculine and neuter. Those endings should be pretty familiar by now, and if they're not, you can look them up in the chart. And that's it for today. I will move on now to 13.4.